I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're delving into the captivating world of antique treasures with Glenn Wood. He is the author of a terrific book. It is called Messengers in Time. This beautifully illustrated collection of short stories brings to life the spirits of long past owners, revealing the rich histories of objects from far-off lands like India, China, and Italy. Discover the secrets hidden within these timeless relics as we explore their journeys through time and culture. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put him in the spotlight today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like him by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing his amazing book. The links are below this interview. Glenn, great to see you here today on Spotlight.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Great to have you on the show. You are an expert in antiques. How did this come about? How did you get an interest in these relics and artifacts from the past?
Well, I live in the intersection of travel, culture, and wood. And I think my life has been fascinating, even from a very small child. You see, I was born in England right at the end of World War II. And frankly, we were very poor. Everybody was. So my father came back from the Far East after fighting there and had to set up home and furnish a house, but we couldn't afford new furniture. In fact, I'm not sure that there was much new furniture. So the older it was, the cheaper it was, and we had to start with 16th, 17th century furniture. I mean, my mother found an oak cupboard in a chicken farmer's farmyard. It was kept the chickens in it, and she bought it for very little money. But this, I always found it not just utilitarian, but the fact that it was from the 16th century seemed to speak to me that this was, wow, this was many, many lifetimes. So old things from there on. And I should say I was almost into my 10, 12 years old before we could afford Georgian furniture. And this sounds very exclusive, but you have to remember, people were just trying to eat and live at that time. There was no interest in antiques at all, and no Antiques Roadshow. So these were utilitarian things, but they fascinated me.
Yeah. I had a similar upbringing. We never had new anything. We had a used refrigerator. We had used furniture. It was just part and parcel. We'd go to a little shop called, I think it was called Chatham's, and we would pick out some used furniture. But your furniture was obviously older because the history of the UK is a lot older, and you really became focused on these antiques. Tell us about how they carried the stories of their past owners within them. That, I think, is a fascinating part of it.
I think it has a lot to do with my name. You see, being called Wood, my father, and for generations, we've always had an affinity with wood. I guess in times past, we lived near a wood or with wood. I don't know that much. But when I collect wooden things, and you notice all the stories are about wooden boxes, not metal boxes or ivory boxes, but they're made of wood. They kind of talk to me. I find them irresistible, so I collect them. I've got dozens, hundreds of them, and I look at them, and it's almost like a kind of telepathy. They start to tell me something about where they came from, who they belong to. And it may take a while for the story to emerge, or it may be very quick. I don't know, but it's always fascinating. And the stories, I should say, are not just about the boxes. This one, for example, is Japanese. It's a very old box, and it came to me in pieces because this was a gift.
Hold that up a little higher so we can see it a little bit more. Yes, beautiful.
It is beautiful. And this was a gift from a Japanese American translator at the end of the Korean War, who didn't know whether to return to America or return to Japan because his people hadn't been well treated, to be honest, in America. And he decided he was not going to return, but go to Japan. And he gifted this box to his friend who was returning to America, but he had to take it into pieces to put into his backpack. And I acquired it from the war hero in pieces and had to reassemble it. But the story is about the box, and it's fascinating, but it's about dispossession and where we end up in life. You see, I'm English, and yet I was at university in Scotland. I lived in South America. I speak Spanish. And in the end, at some point, you wonder, well, where is home exactly? Where is it? A lot of people never leave their villages, but many do now. And so this story, it's about that. And given time, we become rehabilitated and settle into our environment, wherever that may be. And that's the purpose of the story for that particular one.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let's give the folks at home an overview of the book. What will they find between the covers of this beautiful book?
It's worth pointing out that this is a collection of short stories, and they're really quite short stories. They shouldn't take more than 10, 15 minutes each to read. Now, when I set out on this journey, I was told, oh, forget, nobody's interested in short stories. I said, well, I am. I just don't have the patience or the time to read a 500-page novel. I don't. Yep. But a short story is a nice bite-sized piece of literature and information that anyone can consume. Mm-hmm. So we have, I've just been writing for a number of years. Every one of my boxes, a little story appears to me, and I just write it down and record it. And in this book, Messengers in Time, I think we're going to find, 8 or 10 stories, 10, I think, short stories of boxes which will transport the reader not only to different places, but different cultures, different points in time and how they arrived. Because the great mystery to me is I find an Indian box, a Chinese box, a Japanese box, and it arrives here in Pennsylvania, in America. And you think, well, what waves of the ocean caused it to wash up on these particular shores? Mm. And I think that little journey is interesting to everyone, because we're all interested in the quest, in travel, in search, because at the end of a journey, there's something. It might be a pot of gold, it might be something less wonderful, but we're always intrigued to see where life takes us. And these boxes, antiques generally, their lives are much longer than ours, so they've accumulated a lot of wisdom in their journeys, and I want to impart some of that wisdom. So hopefully people feel a little wiser, a little more enlightened after they've read one of these stories. And by the time they've read all 10 of them, they should be very entertained.
Absolutely. And these artifacts, these antiques truly are messengers in time. Which country or culture do you feel left the deepest impression on you during your travels?
Oh, that's very hard. I have an office in China still, and until COVID, I used to travel there quite regularly. It's involved with holograms, making fanciful images. But I don't have the stomach for long distance travel now. But after I was at university in St Andrews in Scotland, I went out to Bolivia, of all places, in South America. Not many people know much about Bolivia, but it's high up, 12,000 feet up in the Andes, and a quiet, mysterious place. And that's where I really perfected my Spanish language. Met wonderful people, so welcoming, and that has a special place in my heart, South America. But it's hard to choose. If I say, well, India also, I love India. particularly because of the food. In England, we always had a lot of Indian restaurants. And I told them in India, I was staying in some very nice hotels. Well, the food is better in England, quite frankly. And they said, we know all our best chefs have gone to England. So
That's
it was ironic. But
that
yes,
is ironic for sure.
I'm a
Yeah,
world traveler. I like everywhere.
yeah, it's like choosing to ask people to it's like asking people to choose among children. It's a tough question, no doubt. And each culture, each land has its own benefits, has its own attributes for sure. Is this book going to be part of a series? Do you anticipate more books coming?
Yes, I don't know if you can see behind me, there are some white folders. Those are
Mhm.
all my unpublished books. Um,
Okay.
so yes, very much this is part of a trilogy. The next one, Echoes in Time, is already hitting the bookshelves, and we're working on a third one, which will be called, and I like this title, Woods Whispers, because these are like the messages of wood being whispered across time. And I would like for you to ask me, Logan, why boxes? Because I do feel a particular affinity to boxes because they're like people. You've got an exterior and you react to that like a person. You look at, how are they dressed, and they're part of a tribe, and you get certain clues. But it's only when you open it up and see inside, then you get clues to what it was for, how
Mm.
is it being used. So that's like a person also. It takes time to familiarize. And at the end of the day, I'm not sure that we ever know completely anybody. We're always learning a little bit more.
Very, very true. And I do think boxes are intriguing. You wonder what was kept in them. Was it a treasure trove kept in there? Were there love letters kept in there? Were there precious jewels kept in there? Money? Who knows? And I do think it is intriguing. And I do think these antiques that you collect, these boxes, truly are messengers in time. And that's the name of the book, Messengers in Time. It is a beautifully illustrated collection of short stories that bring to life the spirits of their long past owners, revealing the rich histories of objects from far off lands like India, China, and Italy. Glenn, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight and sharing your insights with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure is all mine. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.